Hi everyone, and welcome to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and I've got Richard Ball with us today, and he is a veteran, and we are talking about the Veterans Day Parade. Tell us a little bit about this event.
Well, this is my 22nd year of doing the Veterans Day Parade, and I would say that the Veterans Day Parade is probably 75 to 80 years old.
Wow. And it's on State Street.
It'll be on State Street. It'll be forming on Morrison Boulevard and turns east on State Street and coming up to Lee Street and then turn left and going over to the Memorial Park.
And what day will this be?
It'll be November the 5th. It'll be on a Saturday before Veterans Day.
Okay. And what time?
Okay, we start staging on Morrison at 9 o'clock, and the parade starts at 10, and it's normally over by 11:15, and there will be a service in the park after the parade.
And you've been involved in this, you said 22 years. So I'm sure you've seen this evolve. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I can remember coming home in 1970 and standing in front of the Cameo Theater for Veterans Day Parade, and it lasted about 10 or 15 minutes. And that was about it. And I don't know who organized it back then. So it has grown from 10 or 15 minutes to at least an hour, and it should be a couple of hours long because there's plenty of veterans and all around town that could participate in this.
That's right. And we just also, while I have you here, thank you for serving.
Well, thank you.
And this is just a nice way, honestly, to recognize our veterans. And like you said, we really do have a lot in the area.
Yes, we do. And, you know, it's our way of saying thank you, we respect you. Thank you for serving, taking time out of your life, putting it on hold to serve our nation. And you'll never be forgotten by me.
Anything new happening with the parade this year?
I'd like to send out a request to veteran-owned businesses. I've worked up a deal with a printing company here in town that will make up two magnetic signs that will place on the side of your doors, and it'll say the name of your business and veteran-owned. So I would really like to get those businesses involved.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
And all it involves is just riding in the, you don't have to do nothing, just ride, go out the other end and go home. But I think it'd be nice for a lot of the people here to know who some of the veterans that own businesses in town.
That's fantastic. And if you're hearing this and you are one of those people, how do they get in contact with you?
Just contact me at 276-466-4009.
Perfect.
Just contact me and I'll get back with you.
And you can always contact Richard if you've got any questions about the parade too.
Correct.
So, well, thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a moment. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and I've got Lieutenant Bill Nunley with me today from the Bristol, Tennessee Fire Department. And October is Fire Prevention Month, so tell us some things and tips that we need to know as homeowners to prevent fires.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Fire Prevention Week is always the week of October the 9th. This year, October the 9th through the 15th. For more information, you can go to Fire Prevention Week or fpw.org on the internet. Got all kinds of neat tips and things there.
I also understand you're doing something special on October 15th.
Yes, we are. October the 15th, we're having open house at their fire station. It's going to be from 10 till 2. They're at Station 5 at the Pinnacle. We're going to have things for the kids there and also touch a truck that can look at our equipment. We'll do some demonstrations. We're really looking forward to it.
What are the most common house fires that you see?
Very common is in the kitchen area, but some of the problems we're running into is some of the exits are blocked, maybe overloading their electrical outlets. Another problem this time of year, heating systems just kicking in. They're not familiar with their new system or having problems with their old. So we want to get that word out to keep everybody safe.
And I know I've heard dryers are also...
Got to keep those lint things clean and make sure they're maintenance. Yes, you're exactly right. Don't overload. If heating element goes out or it gets too hot, it can cause a fire there as well.
And I know earlier you mentioned there's a website that people can go to, and this just has a lot of different tips and things that we may not think about every day.
fpw.org works well within FPA, and there's a lot of information there on that website.
That's perfect. And when you're talking to kids about fire prevention, what do you mostly focus on with them?
Well, actually the alarm system itself, okay, so if for some reason smoke alarm goes off, what do they actually need to do? We're promoting that, find a place to go and meet outside. That way everybody is accounted for. Problem that we run into is people, once they do get outside, everybody's accounted for. Somebody tries to go back inside, whether it's for a pet or an electronic device, keys to a vehicle, and smoke is very toxic. So it's not always the fire, it's the smoke. It's extremely dangerous. So we're trying to keep everybody safe.
And it's always a good idea for families to practice an exit strategy too.
All the time.
And I remember when my kids were little, we did it once, and they actually really liked it. They thought it was a lot of fun.
You need to practice that just like you would fire drills at school. They would need to be doing that at home.
Yeah, so that you really do know where to go. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
A little history about Fire Prevention Week. The reason it came back, it was a terrible fire in 1871 in Chicago. There we had a young man, after a lot of investigating, they found out was playing in a card game, and when he was trying to escape, he turned over a lantern. Yeah, so in that fire, we had over 250 people killed, 100,000 left homeless. It destroyed more than 17,400 structures. And so back in 1925, the president then declared that this was Fire Prevention Week, and we've been going, this is the 100th anniversary this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Good stuff.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Yours too. And don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a moment. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and I've got Dr. Martin Dodder-Wyke with me today. Thank you so much from King University, and we're talking about the Faith and Culture series, and there are just a lot of events. So I think everybody probably needs to get like a pen and paper or your calendar out, because we've got a rundown of them. So where do we start?
And also, just so I'll reiterate this at the end, but we'll have everything up on our Facebook site, which is King Institute for Faith and Culture, and then also on our website, which is faithandculture.king.edu. So everything will be available there. We have had a tumultuous fall in some respects because we had people have to cancel for health reasons and travel reasons. So we have not had the ability to put out a brochure yet. We are finally there, though, for the fall, and so I'm delighted to come on and talk about what we've got left. We have 4 events, 1 in October and 3 in November that we're anticipating, and each of those is going to be free and open to the public. As always, we have an event in the morning, typically for our students on campus. Anybody's welcome to come to that, to the King campus, to our Memorial Chapel. And in the evenings, we typically hold events at a downtown church or sometimes the library. So a couple of these, the evening location is yet to be determined, but that'll be on the website as well.
Oh, okay, great. So what's the first one we have coming up?
First one is a man called Mark Finley. Mark is coming on October 17th. He is someone who calls himself an ambassador of reconciliation, and he runs a nonprofit called Leaders and Followers, which you can find on the internet. Mark is a native of Northern Ireland. He grew up during the Troubles, and he began to feel as he went through a business career that he was being called by God into work reconciling people, bringing peace to warring factions. And so he was involved in the peace process in Northern Ireland and eventually thought that he needed to move to D.C. And so he moved with his family over to Washington, and he works individually with a number of members of the Congress and others in Capitol Hill. He does a lot of individual meeting, and he tries to work with the National Prayer Breakfast, and he does peacemaking work in other parts of the world as well. So that's, Mark sees himself then as an ambassador of reconciliation, and we're going to hear his story a little bit on the 17th. And it'll be 2 separate talks. In all these cases, they're 2 separate events. He'll speak in the morning for students. In the evening, he'll be at Emmanuel Episcopal Church.
Okay.
At 7 p.m.
If you can't get there in the morning, of course, people that
It is
work,
in the evening.
It's great that you can
Also,
come in the
we
evening.
do stream in the morning. All the morning events are streamed, and everything eventually ends up on YouTube. We prefer to have people in person.
Absolutely,
It's a lot more fun in person, but we do make everything available as much as we can
that's great.
On YouTube later.
So what's next?
In November, we have a fairly crowded November, partly because I had so many people who had to delay with travel issues or health issues. November the 7th, we welcome somebody who actually lives pretty locally. Daniel Silliman, who lives in Johnson City, is a journalist. He is the news editor for Christianity Today magazine. He is also author of a book about Christian fiction and how it has shaped American life in the past 30, 40 years. And he's somebody who has written broadly. He writes a lot of obituaries. A lot of people may have actually read him without knowing it because he does a lot of obituaries for Christianity Today of well-known figures. But he is somebody who has had really interesting, broad experience. He has a PhD from the University of Heidelberg in Germany.
Oh, wow.
He does some adjunct teaching at Milligan, and we are excited to have Daniel here. In the morning, he'll talk. Our theme this year is about vocation or calling. We took that from the man who's been kind of the guiding light for us was the author Frederick Buechner. We used to be called the Buechner Institute. And Buechner just died at 96. And so we're kind of celebrating his work this year as we consider something that was a very important theme to him, which is calling. Our title is Hunger and Gladness, because Buechner had this famous phrase that the place God calls you to is the place where your deep hunger and the world's deep, or your deep gladness, I'm getting it backwards, your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Oh, wow. And so we're calling it Hunger and Gladness, and we're trying to ask people to address how they have found a calling or a place in life. So most of the morning lectures are going to focus on that. And then in the evening, Daniel's going to talk about some reporting he did exposing some sexual abuse cases in churches, which he has been very involved with, and he's going to talk about that process as a reporter. So I think that'll be an interesting opportunity in the evening as well. On November 14th, we welcome a man called Lee Martin. Lee has just retired from the University of Tennessee. He taught engineering, and he also taught entrepreneurial work in business. He's an interesting mix of things. If you have ever looked for a property online or a rental, and you use the little camera that lets you look all around the room, he invented that.
Oh, wow.
And so that's his thing. And Lee has a company that has worked with that. So he's somebody who works in science and also in business. Mm-hmm. And we like to have that for our students, to have somebody who represents both of those things at once. And he's going to talk about calling in the morning of November 14th. In the evening, he's going to talk about a different calling, which is that in retirement, he feels himself called to pickleball. And he holds some national championship. Wow. He has built courts in Knoxville.
Gosh, that's great.
And he's really involved in this. And so he sees this as kind of a new phase of life for him and an avenue of service. So he's going to talk about pickleball on the evening of November 14th. We're not sure where yet. We're working on this location.
I bet we have people out there looking up pickleball.
That's my guess. Yes.
Probably. What is pickleball? It's kind of like ping pong.
It has been in the national news like 3 times this week.
Yeah, it's
New York
amazing.
Times, Time Magazine have all had pieces on pickleball. I've never played pickleball.
Oh, you haven't? I have, because my parents live in Florida and it's big there. So,
well,
yes, we have played. My parents play. So
I see.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, Lee loves it, and he's going to bring his. He is the ambassador of pickleball.
I love that.
For us
That's
here.
really, really
So we're excited about having him up here, and also he's going to talk to our science students.
Okay.
He's going to do a special session for them about the ways that they can use business skills to use their scientific work a bit, since he occupies both those worlds a bit. So we're excited about him. Our final event is really perfect to cap off the semester. It was supposed to happen earlier and it got postponed because of the hurricane. We are welcoming back yet again our well-beloved and probably most famous graduate, Catherine Patterson. Catherine graduated from King in 1954, and she has come back to King numerous times for us. She is probably the most decorated children's author in America. She has been given 2 Newbery Awards, 2 National Book Awards. She holds the Astrid Lindgren Award, the Hans Christian Andersen Award, and the Library of Congress decided to name her a living legend in 2000. So she is a well-loved and just a delight to know. Anybody who's around who has not had a chance to meet her personally, it's really just worth it to come hear her and be in her presence. She has written a play for King, and so she's still writing. She has just produced a book and a play this year. The book is a memoir, and on the morning of Thursday, unusually for us, Thursday, December 1st, she's going to do a reading from her memoir. She grew up in China. Her parents were missionaries. She moved back to the United States, studied at King. She went to do a degree in Christian education in Richmond, And then she went as a missionary to Japan. She lived in Japan for a few years. Then she moved back and married a Presbyterian minister. They moved around a good deal. And then, of course, her writing career has taken her all over the world. So her memoir has just been reissued, and we're looking forward to her reading from that. But then she also wrote this play. The play is a comedy. It's called Good King Wenceslas. It's going to world premiere at King, December 1st to December 3rd.
Wow.
She co-wrote it with a woman called Stephanie Tolan, who is also a Newbery Award-winning children's author. And so Stephanie is coming down for the play with Catherine. So I pounced on them, and on the night of November 30th, we're going to have them along with Bristol's own Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, also a Newbery honoree. So I'll have 3 Newbery honorees on the stage at once to talk about children's literature. And we'll try to use that angle from Fred Buechner of calling. How is this something that they found as their life's work, and how has it shaped who they are? So we have had Catherine and Kimberly in conversation before, which has been great. Now we add Stephanie Tolan. And so we're looking forward to that on the evening of November 30th.
Wow, what a lineup. I'm amazed, and you've got a great memory to just regurgitate all that for us. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
I hope people will feel free to come out. We love to have people come for any of the events on campus or downtown. We usually have plenty of time for conversation after.
That's great.
If they want to linger and talk to a speaker, we'd love to have folks come out.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on today and sharing all of that.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.